everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and Merry Christmas! Today I thought I would talk you through all of the books that my family breaks out every year, especially for Christmas. We keep them in this basket here. Most of them are children's books, but they can be enjoyed by any age. And it's a tradition that really only started as I started getting older, because a lot of these were my children's books and I was actively reading them earlier on. And I'm a little disappointed that we didn't start it sooner, but I'm really glad that we started it when we did, and it's definitely something that I would like to do when I have my own family one day as well. So without further ado, let's show you what's in the basket. Okay, so I've just emptied the basket and I've got them stacked such that I think I can put them back the way they were. Fingers crossed. But let's dive into the books nonetheless. And the first is Madeline in America by Ludwig Bemelmans. And this is one, I think it was the last one that he ever wrote. And I don't remember why Madeline ends up going to Texas, but she does, and it also happens to be around Christmas time, I believe. Yes, and other holiday tales, the bit I didn't read. So this always comes out at Christmas. Next I have The Story of the Nutcracker Ballet by Vladimir Vasig, I think. Vagan, which is a beautiful depiction of the ballet itself. Here we have the Waltz of the Flowers with a story written to go with it. The Nutcracker as a human and Clara. It does lean more on the ballet side than the E.T.A. Hoffmann side, but I love it nonetheless. I then have this book of artwork by Greg Olson called Beautiful Savior, which my wonderful friend Amanda gave me almost 20 years ago. I can't believe it's been that long. With artwork from, I believe she knew Greg Olson. He might have belonged to her church at one point, but they're just beautiful paintings and wonderful little sayings about Jesus. We then have my parents' book about Christmas in Austria, which is many years old by this point, but is full of beautiful photographs of a European Christmas. Next we have this lovely picture book, The Spirit of Christmas, with lovely illustrations about how Christmas is celebrated by everyone, including the animals in the woods. We then have the classic short story, The Gift of the Magi by O. Henry, which was just beautiful. It can definitely be told to children about selfless love, but it's wonderful for adults as well. I also have this picture book version of Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, which is one of my favorites when I was very little, such that I can still remember some of these illustrations. Especially that one. They're so minimal, but so beautiful. Well, minimal in terms of color, not in terms of detail. We then have the book Too Many Tamales by Gary Soto and Ed Martinez. It's about a big Latina family getting together for Christmas and cooking tamales, but Maria has always wanted to wear her mother's diamond ring, and so she sneaks it without her mother knowing. And then she realizes, I think it got into the tamale dough. And so she and her cousins have to figure out a way to find it in all of the tamales without letting her mother know. Then I have The Wild Christmas Reindeer by, is it Jan Brett or Jan Brett? There's nothing on this book to tell me. But this is the story of Tika, a young girl who is charged with looking after Santa's reindeer. And the thing that Jan Brett is probably most famous for are the illustrations in her books. They are just beautiful. We then have Merry Christmas, Steganona by Tomie de Paola. I loved all of Tomie de Paola's books, but I especially loved the Steganona books, and this one is just wonderful, where Steganona is going through all of these preparations, trying to get the perfect Italian Christmas together, and she feels like no one appreciates it, and Big Anthony is getting everything wrong, and it's just going to be terrible. But, of course, everything turns out well in the end. We then have one of my church mice books, The Diary of a Church Mouse by Graham Oakley, which I believe covers an entire year. But our favorite illustrations are these at the end when we get to Christmas. And there's been a mix-up, and everyone has decided to dress as Father Christmas to surprise the children. And you end up with all of these teeny little mice dressed up as tiny little Father Christmases, and it's so cute. So we always include that in this stash. We then have Paddington Bear and the Christmas Surprise, which is one of his books for younger readers. Then have another Magic Treehouse book. This is Christmas in Camelot. This is one of the Super Adventure editions, I think. Well, it wasn't technically called that, but it was a much longer book than Magic Treehouses typically were, but why not? It's Christmas. We also have A Child's Christmas in Wales by the poet Dylan Thomas, which is just wonderful, and it's my family's tradition to read this on Christmas Eve every year. And it's exactly what it says. It's Dylan Thomas's memories of what Christmases were like for him growing up. We then have one of my Dear America books. This is Christmas After All, the diary of Minnie Swift in the Great Depression in Indiana in 1932. And not all of it takes place at Christmas, but it does form the center of this book. Then also have Merry Christmas from Mandy. I don't even remember where I picked this up as a child, but I believe it's part of a series. There were the Young Mandy mystery books, apparently, and this is a special edition. And they were written by Lois Gladys Leopard. And it was a lovely mystery series set in North Carolina at the turn of the century. We then have this large book just called The Little Big Book of Christmas, which is full of short stories, songs, anything you might need to feel festive. And of course, you can't forget The Joy of a Peanuts Christmas, celebrating 50 years since the Christmas special. And it's full of holiday comics from the strip. We then also have Nate the Great and the Crunchy Christmas, again by Marjorie Wyman Sharmat. And we also have The Latka Who Couldn't Stop Screaming, A Christmas Story by Lemony Snicket, which my cousins bought me a few years ago and is just adorable and educates everyone on all sorts of holiday traditions, including those of Hanukkah. We then also have Be Joyful, which is a small book of Peanuts wisdom to carry you through the festive season, such as Be Electric. And there's Spike with his cactus all decorated in the desert. And then lastly, we have these two tiny stocking stuffer books. The first is A Charlie Brown Christmas, which I believe is just the story of the classic television special. And then we have A Very Muppet Christmas, full of songs and short stories that are traditional to Christmas, but with a Muppet twist. And lastly, something that is a book but does not go in the basket, so I nearly forgot about it, is our Advent calendar. Our Advent calendar is called The Story of Christmas, which when you unfold it reveals books. And each of these little books tells a part of the Christmas story. And so every day you would read that portion of the story, and then, due to these little gold threads, you can hang them on the tree and use them as decorations. So there you have it. Those are all of our Christmas books that we break out every year. Let me know down below if you all have any special holiday books, if you have a tradition similar to this, or if you would like to start. Let me know down below, and until next time, be safe, be well, and happy reading. Bye everyone.